Hello, welcome to Mystic Rose Tarot, and welcome and happy birthday to all the Leos. We are welcoming the first decan in the sun sign of Leo as of yesterday, the 22nd of July. But with this decan, with the Unified Esoteric Tarot, we're going to be moving from July 23rd to August 2nd with the Unified Esoteric Tarot. So I'm actually at the end, these last 3 decans for this month of Leo is actually going to wrap up my journey with the Unified Esoteric Tarot and exploring the different decans that fall into the signs of each astrological month. It has been a wonderful journey, and I'm not going to make any closing comments just yet, but I hope many of you were able to watch the discussion I had with Attila Karpathy, the creator of the Unified Esoteric Tarot deck, to catch his insight and his background into how he came to creating the Unified Esoteric Tarot. So this deck is no longer available. He sold the remaining copies a few months ago. And as of now, he's saying that that's it, no more production. The deck had been around for a while, and it was under a second incarnation. There's the black version, which I have, and then there's a color version. And he kept those decks available until they ran out, which they did this year. So if you are interested in this deck, you may have to put a word out. It is a wonderful deck. So much information that is provided in the Unified Esoteric Tarot. So with that aside, let's jump right into this reading for the first decan of Leo, 0 to 10 degrees. In the sign of, or the planetary influence of the sun, which is the rulership of the sign of Leo. Oh, don't know if this is going to focus. Anyhow, with the sun of Leo, the key word that we have here for the Unified Esoteric Tarot is lust. But I want to change that word around. Lust can be connotated in so many different ways. Lust is very aggressive, very direct, full of energy, which is an aspect of Leo, lots of life and energy. But the word that I want to change instead of lust for this card is more of vitality, and that's what the sun is. The sun isn't lustful. It can fuel that kind of energy depending on, the intention of what's being placed out. But here, I want to focus more on the energy of the sun and its influence in Leo. Let's just, before I go into this reading, let me back up a little bit. Let's just talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of the fixed sign of Leo. Leo is fixed, so it's very determined. It has almost similar energy in the sense, personality-wise, like Taurus. Another fixed sign, and Aquarius is another fixed sign, but held in different elements. Taurus is earth, Leo is fire, Scorpio's water, that's another sign I forgot to mention that's fixed, and Aquarius is air. So they all have a set purpose, each of those fixed signs. And once they find something that motivates them, that fuels them, they become focused on it, and they will do what they have to do to get to their goals, whether it's working hard, communicating in different ways, emotionally being committed to certain things that you're working to, and getting those perspectives cleared for people so that they can understand. So with Leo, their driving force comes from the heart. They rule the heart element, and their heart has to be very strong, very courageous, very confident in everything that they do, from the way they hold their body language to their work ethics. But the one thing that is very key is Leo likes to be recognized for their work, for their appearance. Any action that they take, that they're investing into something, they want to make sure that they get that recognition. And so sometimes that recognition, if it's being pushed too much, that's where the ego aspect of Leo, and also Aries shares a similar scenario, that tends to jump ahead, and with the ego being so focused on themselves and the attention being drawn to their energy and whatnot of that personality, it could steer them away from their goal. So we want to make sure that these signs that are fixed, that none of this energy gets too over the top and that they could potentially move off track. So that's why the self-assurance that Leo has will get them through thick and thin. And maybe it may be a challenge, and may weaken a little bit of that Leo spirit, but if they stay committed and see the light at the end, know that if they put all their work into rectifying or removing obstacles that are holding them from moving ahead, that's where Leo connects to that strong will that they have to get through and pursue or persevere through any challenges. But there has to be that motivating factor in Leo to get them to move and grow in that situation and to continue onward. They have a natural sense of leadership. They have a natural charisma in the way that they present themselves, speak, so on and so forth, that can be captivating for a lot of people. Leo's one of the, I guess one of the careers of Leo, because Leo is a very creative sign, is seen in performers. We have Madonna, she's a Leo. People who are, their work becomes part of who they are, and they make sure that that part of them is being expressed through their work, but also when it comes out to promoting their work, they're part of the process. So they make sure that what they have to say, their message is very clear and it draws people to them. That recognition is very important because they want to be acknowledged for the work that they've done. And it's truly appreciated of the sign. It's part of their characteristics of courage and trust. Okay, so just a little bit of background for the Leo. There's more that can go into it, but I want to focus primarily on the energy and the card of influence of this Decan, which is the Five of Wands. And the Five of Wands is one of challenge, but we're going to explore that and see the best way during this first Decan with the Five of Wands, how to work with that energy. So again, going back to the Unified Esoteric Tarot, the sun's energy is the life force for this sign. It is always powerful, it is always active and supportive. So even at night, when wherever you are, if you're not seeing the sun is still there because it is providing light for the moon. So we're seeing that reflective part of the moon coming from the sun. So its energy's there, but being translated through the moon at night. And then, of course, in the daytime, we see the sun there. So this influences, this life force, the sun influences and gives the energy and the fuel for the desires in Leo to go after what they truly moves them. They will work hard and do what it takes to get to their goal, to be successful. And again, the one thing that we have to be careful about, I mentioned this card, instead of the word lust is vitality, but we have to be careful there isn't an overabundance of this energy. And when that happens, we get the reverse. And here, Attila uses the word hedonism. So that's an excess of pleasure, an excess of the ego, an excess of the self that is just driving you in a different direction from where you need to be. So we need to create that balance. We have to make sure there isn't too much of that. And if the Leo is aware of those kinds of actions, over self-confident, they need to manage that very carefully because it could work against them. Leos are leaders, natural leaders. So there's a lot of trust that people put into Leos and what they have to say and what has to be expressed. So that vitality that we see here with that Sun and Leo influence is very strong during this first decan. So you can use this energy from July 23rd to August 2nd to feel that motivation, to find that drive towards what you're working for, relationship, work, projects, so on and so forth. But manage it. Okay, don't go over the top if things are starting to move in your direction. It's like, oh yeah, this is wonderful. People are trusting you. Remember that. But don't take it any further than that. Stay on that path and stay focused. Alrighty, so I mentioned the card of influence for this decan of Leo is 5 of Wands. So we're going to be doing 5, 6, and 7 Wands for fire for the last decans of Leo. Okay, so they're all going to be in the suit of Wands. But with the 5 of Wands, let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of the 5 of Wands. 5 of Wands is dealing with challenges, conflict, struggles. And again, depending on which suit it is, it could be emotional, it could be physical confrontation, it could be challenge of the mind, and also maintaining some sort of personal material stability with finances, with your own well-being. So, but here with the 5 of Wands, this can be the struggle that you can have within yourself or outside influences that are coming to you. I shouldn't say to you, but coming at you. And I feel with the 5 of Wands, and I'm going to show you some of these cards here that I have, challenges in our lives are very important. That's what tests us. And it challenges our own willpower, our own strength, our own confidence when it comes to handling a situation. There are some people who just don't know how to deal with confrontation. A lot of people do not like to have confrontation. They avoid it, they shun from it, and that just makes matters worse. There's some people that, especially the fire signs, they appreciate, I know that's the correct word, they know the responsibility that comes with challenges, and they are ready to face that. They have to face this on directly and learn from it. And I think primarily, if it's coming from a good place, these challenges allow you to be open to seeing both sides of what's being challenged. You're seeing where you're coming from, you're feeling where you're coming from, but also to see, if you're open-minded and open-hearted, what's going on with your opposing situation. What can you learn from it? And by understanding both sides and not one side, and that one side being you, even though you still need to protect yourself, you can learn. You can learn from your opposer and see what the challenge is, what is different coming from that other side that you don't see, or you don't want to see, or you don't understand. Try to put yourself in those shoes and see what's going on with that situation, with that perspective that person has. And in turn, by getting some insight, you will learn a little bit more about yourself and find out maybe you are stronger than this person thinks. There are people who are one-sided, and that's all they see, and that's all what they want people to know and understand. They don't want to see the other side. They only want to see their side because they feel their side is the way. And so that's a never-ending struggle that they will have within themselves because other people will not see that side the same way. So with that Five of Wands, understanding about taking direct action with conflict, I'm going to show you 3 cards because the Five of Wands is pretty self-explanatory. I normally bring around 4 or 5 cards, but looking at the decks that I wanted to do a breakdown of the Five of Wands, I just felt these 3 cards I'm going to be sharing with you give a good overall feeling as to the energy of the Five of Wands. So with the Lumina Tarot, this is our Five of Wands here. Okay, so we see the head-on direct challenge right there. All the antlers, the horns are locked in. Okay, and we see the 3 wands above and the 2 below. We're seeing this energy passing through stages. There's still more that needs to be worked on, rectified, to let go. But what we're seeing here, the communication between these 2 animals is they're making steps, but they still have a lot of communication and understanding and letting go that needs to be worked on. And ultimately, when challenges work. Okay, it's when someone is exhausted, someone will have to break down. And that's where the stronger of the 2 can be overcome by these challenges here. What's also important is that there has to be a strategy when you're going into a challenge. Again, what I was mentioning earlier is look into the details and the information of what's being challenged. Okay, and this also applies to yourself. But also look into the opposing side and see what's going on, what information you could get, so you can prepare how to take on these situations. What are the weak points that you can maybe take head on and maybe move ahead? And what are the stronger aspects of the challenge that you need to be aware of and maybe to hone your skills on? What happens in this situation is you're trying to communicate on both sides. The self may be torn for the best course of action to take in the situation. But here's the thing, the 2 opposing thoughts, energies, you're still fighting for the common goal. The only thing that's different is the opinion. How can you convince yourself or your challenge a different way of seeing this? What's the best resolve that can come out of this conflict where both sides can actually benefit? What can be done where the light can be shown on the opponent? What can awaken their sides to see things? And maybe both of you, including yourself, can see things eye to eye. Okay, it's really seeing things in a very decisive and very very open-hearted way. You have to make those choices as soon as these actions happen. And one other thing is, if things are just going back and forth, there's no moving up, there's no moving down. As I mentioned earlier, consider a compromise by just moving back, letting go, so that there can be a peace between yourself and the other person, just so that you can move on. When there's constant struggles going back and forth, no one's giving, no one's taking, ultimately it's going to end up, like I said, in exhaustion, and someone will have to back down. And that's probably the best way to do something like that. Don't fight something. Don't keep going against the wall. The wall's not moving. It's just probably getting dented, and that's probably as far as you're going to go. You just have to give yourself that compromise to move back, and also to save your energy. You don't want to exhaust yourself, because this is the Five of Wands. So you still have more in this journey to experience and to get work done. So save that excess energy, not so much into fighting, so that's depleted, but so that you can move on. The dreams of Gaia. This deck works with the energy elements. So here we have very strong masculine energy forces. But I want you to look at this card very carefully, if my camera decides to focus. Okay. Look at this card carefully. You can't really see the expression, because that's really what I want you to focus on. We have this individual here where the fist is up. It's just ready. While this person here is standing their ground and just looking at them. The position isn't aggressive. The position is ready. It's defensive, while this person's ready to take action. And this here is an example of what I was saying, perhaps letting go of some of that energy and seeing if you can connect to this person. Maybe one of you will end up being the mediator instead of the actions. Like, how can I get through to this person? How perhaps relating to that situation. Okay, again, seeing the other side of the opponent and connecting with them and letting that person know, hey, we're both fighting for the same thing. Why is this happening? Here we welcome a shift in energy. We want to see that change. Okay. That continuous feeding of your opponent with aggression versus aggression is just, again, it's not going to get you anywhere. Consider your opinions and express them in such a way that it doesn't cause aggressive behavior. Be mindful of the environment that you're sharing your thoughts in, or your actions. And be unique. Be unique with this. Okay, so we're seeing something different happening. We're seeing this person changing their perspective, body language-wise, and also the way that they're communicating. If you look here, they're facing eye to eye, but this person's taking a different perspective and trying to connect with this person, less with aggression, but more with, hey, trying to relate to this person. Hey, we are fighting for the same thing, but let me share this with you. Let me share a different perspective that I see that I think you may appreciate regarding what's going on. Be unique in the way that you express your differences. And in doing so, instead of sharing the same perspective of anger and whatnot, share it in a way that you can maybe connect with that person and reach them through the mind, move from that action energy, move that energy to the mind, and potentially connecting with them here. Being friends with your enemies, I guess, in a sense. It's very important to connect with people. Put anger, put aggression aside, and just how can we change the situation? Okay, the Tarot of the Holy Light. Here's the esoteric perspective. Okay, and just to point out, when I show the card from the Tarot of the Holy Light, Okay, I don't focus so much on the energy here with the planet and sign placements, because the esoteric knowledge that comes from this deck astrologically is placed in a different perspective. Here we have Mars in Leo. And so Mars is that aggressive, challenging planet. Leo is ruled by the sun. So we have that fuel. We have this energy. Mars and Leo can be a good placement if this energy, again, is maintained. But here, with the Tarot of the Holy Light, we're focusing more on the fire energy that is put into evolving the soul, how we see things, how we take that energy and how we change it. It's bringing this awareness of spiritual guides and the shifting cosmic forces that create a self-refinement of the individual. We have the sun. We see the merging of the energy of the sun and the moon. And here we have the mercurial influence of thought, mind, but taking it to a higher level. There's a lot of detail when it comes to this card and the Tarot of the Holy Light. So when it comes to doing these kinds of Decan readings, I'm focusing more on the energy, less than on the details. This card here with the Five of Wands is focusing on opulence. What is this energy that goes into creating such a spiritual awareness of the self? How our individual experiences, how we experience them in our current environment and also the world around us. This light of consciousness, I'll show the card here again, this light of consciousness, which is the merging of these two forces, sun and moon. Okay, remember what I was saying, the moon is the reflection of the sun. The moon is the reflection of ourselves inside. We're seeing these forces join. So when we have the light and moon, or the sun and the moon, joining together with these forces of our external self and our internal self, we get that light of consciousness. And with this card, the alchemical influence for this card is held in the element of gold. Okay, so gold is, considered a prize-winning resource. How do you achieve gold? We have the Olympics coming up. We have bronze, silver, and gold. These are tiers of energy, or tiers of acknowledgement for the effort and work that was put into your race, into your routine. Gold is considered to be the top. So with the Tarot of the Holy Light, to achieve gold in a spiritual sense, to have that awakening of consciousness, this is acquired only after being released from certain circumstances of challenges and suffering. When things are just going so hard, but you're working through it. The struggle is real. The challenge is real, but we're getting through it. And once we get through it, yes, Spirit. And once we get through it, we have this energy that just feels priceless. It feels like gold. It's something that's very unique and special. And you want to hold on to that energy. You want to maintain it. I mentioned here about Mars and Leo, and also this card holds the influence of the sun and Aries. And so with these two influences, these two fire signs and the planetary signs of Mars and the luminary sign of the sun, we're seeing self-willed empowerment. This is something to achieve this light of consciousness. We can do this within ourselves because we're using these influences. We're using this life force of the sun, which is moving Leo. It's allowing them to do what means a lot to them, what drives them, what motivates them, what moves their heart. It provides this excitement. Aries, that means of going through any challenge that comes through them, at them, for them. They will do what it takes. And so this self-willed empowerment towards a goal is ultimately that opulence that we see here, this gold alchemical process of releasing anything from the past that has held us back. And in doing so, this awakens the soul to a different perspective. You want to be the best that you can, but don't fall into challenges that can distort your focus. Exactly. So there again, with the Tarot of the Holy Light, it focuses more on the alchemical process of what it takes to achieve this gold opulence spiritual status. It's not a great way to explain it, but by merging these different energies, yes, by merging these different energies and seeing it inside and out and letting it come in and heal, letting it be of guides for you through any challenges and struggles, you will reach that awakening, that experience of like, okay, now I understand. Remember what I was saying here with the dreams of Gaia, taking a step back, seeing a different perspective of the current challenge that's coming onto you, that you're being forced to face. That's the best way I feel when it comes to doing and working through challenges. If you have that fear that's coming in and you know you have to face this challenge, the best way to remove fear is to shift the way that you see fear. Shift the way that you see the challenge. Don't take it as fear, take it as something that you can learn from and grow from. Welcome it. You know, I've mentioned to a few people when it comes to handling or working through any kind of conflict, depending on how great it is, I welcome it. It's like, yeah, give me a challenge. I think this is something that I can handle. I feel this is something that I can handle, and you go through it. And you surprise yourself and you learn from it if you are remaining open-hearted and welcoming for this. And that's hard. Who doesn't want to welcome a challenge? But that's saying that which makes us weak makes us stronger. And by facing that weakness and moving through it, that's the way that you understand. It's that strength that Leo has and that courage. We can look towards that sign, Spirit. We can look to that sign as a inspiring force to get through anything that's moving in our way that could be blocking us. So use the Five of Wands as, as guidance for viewing things differently. Okay, do this if you can, by all means, before taking action. Again, what I was saying about strategy, see what the challenge is and see ways that you can work around it. And then you take those steps that you need to work through it. See if you can meet. This card's perfect. See if you can meet in between with the conflict. See what you can do. What's the compromise that can be made during this situation? Okay. And doing so by changing that and influencing the challenge in a different way, that's how you can potentially resolve. And ultimately, you end up being, it can end up being a win-win situation. Even though you may have influenced it, you ultimately could be the winner, but you're the one that made that step to change it. And we want these shifts to be applicable on both sides, so that both sides can benefit from it. Not one person does and the other one doesn't. So again, it's not time to avoid what's going on. And it's very important to stay true to your beliefs and values, to what's going on, to what the situation is at hand. And don't get overconfident. Okay, if you're starting to see the energy shift and you're like, okay, I'm getting ahead, don't, remove that thought. Keep on your strategy path, if you will, on how you want to remedy this situation so that you can continue moving ahead forward. You don't want to get stuck back and forth with these challenges. A good diplomat is someone who sees both sides of the situation and offers different perspectives, different ways of remedying conflicts or disagreements. That's a good diplomat. Bad diplomat is someone who is just challenging. That isn't even a diplomat. That's just someone who's just aggressing the situation and not making any changes, any steps to changing the situation so both sides can benefit. So the Five of Wands is a good way to round out this reading, dealing with the energy of Five of Wands. How can you be diplomatic about the situation within yourself and what's going on in your environment? See both sides. Don't see one side. You're fighting with two energies, not one. It could be yourself, but then there's a cause that's inflicting that conflict within yourself. So there's two forces, yourself and the conflict itself. So it's always two. What can you do to balance those two forces? Okay. So that's the reading of guidance from July 23rd to August 2nd. Vitality. And being loyal, being dedicated, and working through situations and seeing in a positive sense that there will be an end towards this, but a resolve where it can benefit both people. Think about it in that way. So for this next week, if any challenges come, see it on both sides. See what can be done to take care of that situation so it benefits both of you. All righty. So I will be back August 3rd-ish for our second decan. And I always mention the second decan of each astrological sign. I feel truly represents that astrological sign itself. It holds that influence. It's right in that first week of that sign. And I feel it holds a lot of force and influence for that particular sign. So we will see what the second decan will hold. And I know quite a few people for that second decan in Leo who have birthdays that week. So this reading, happy birthday to all the first decan and Leo people from July 23rd to August 2nd. And then from the 3rd onward, we'll explore that energy force of the Six of Wands and see how that can be of influence for that decan week. Alrighty. Thank you for watching. Any questions, comments that you have regarding this reading, the energy and the influences that Leo has, how it also relates to the Five of Wands energy, feel free to let me know. Look at your tarot deck and see how the Five of Wands are represented and how you can resolve these issues on your own without putting more energy and aggression or challenging influences into it. We want to resolve. We want to move on. We want to grow. We want to learn. We want to move on. Alrighty. Have a wonderful week. Happy birthday again to our first decan and Leo birthdays, Leos. And I will see you again soon. Thank you again, and have a wonderful week, everyone.